Alright, we got a Honda Pilot in the shop, and evidently it went to Firestone for an alignment, and according to them, it needs about $1,000 worth of work before they can finish that alignment. Let's check it out, see what we got. This is what we're looking at today, a two-wheel drive 2012 Honda Pilot. Alright, like I said, this vehicle went to Firestone for a four-wheel alignment. They were able to get the rear wheels aligned, but the front wheels, they said they could not align them, and it is out of spec here in the front. This, according to the service advisor, on this front passenger side, or the right side, the inner and the outer tie rods are seized together, so they could not adjust it. And the recommended fix, according to the service advisor, was to replace both the inner and the outer tie rods on both sides. And the quoted price for that is about $1,064. So a little over $1,000 for that work. So let's take a look at the tech notes and see what they say. All right, here's the notes from the technician, and according to their notes, it says tie rod nut seized to inner tie rod, inner and outer right front needed. Okay, that makes sense. And over here they have checked replace or required right inner and outer tie rods. So that's what the tech said, and that makes sense. If you can't get the that jam nut loose, then you can't make the adjustments. And if we look, our after right here on the right is out of spec right there. Everything else is actually in spec, but the right is out, which puts our total out, the toe anyway. So let me get the car up in the air and we'll check it out. Actually, before we get the vehicle in the air, I have the quote here. Now remember, the tech recommended that the right inner and outer be replaced, and the service advisor recommended both the left and the right side be replaced, inner and outer. According to the quote here, it shows tie rods right outer, so it's not even mentioning the left. And then our parts are the first two lines here, so we have the right outer, and it shows one, and then looks like inner tie rod, and we show two, and then we have two line items for labor. So it's not exactly clear from this quote what work exactly would be done. What is clear that it's $1,064.97, and actually that doesn't include shop supplies and tax. So our total is $1,122.05. So now let's go get that vehicle in the air. See if we can fix it for less than that number right there. I got the front end up in the air. We're safely on jack stands so we can get under the vehicle. I took the wheel off so we can get a better look. There's our tie rod end right there. So let's take a closer look and see what's going on. Here's our outer tie rod end. Here's our inner tie rod. Here's the jam nut that keeps them from moving. Basically, in order to do the alignment, we loosen this jam nut, and then we spin this back and forth, and that either lengthens or shortens this, which changes our toe angle. That's it in a nutshell. And so, according to the tech, they couldn't get this jam nut loose. I can see tool marks, so it looks like somebody's been working on this. I don't see any evidence of penetrating oil or anything that might help. Now, according to the service advisor, the tech used, and I quote, all his tricks to get this loose, and they couldn't do it. And because you couldn't get that loose, couldn't do the alignment, at least on this side right here. According to the service advisor, they're saying that this is seized to this. Technically, that's not true. It's, at least according to the tech, this is seized, and so it's possible that this is seized to this, but we won't know that until we get this loose. So let's see if we can work on this and get it loose. And if we can, maybe we can get this thing aligned with no parts. All right, the nut right here is a 24 millimeter. This flat area right here on the outer tie rod, in order to hold that, that's going to be a 19 millimeter. And then this over here, this flat area is a 14. So those are our three sizes. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to hose this down with some penetrating oil. All right, I'm just going to spray some of this on here. All right, we'll let that sit for a good 30 seconds. Now, what it looks like they did, they put the wrench on like this and tried to, loosen it. We're going to go that way to loosen it. And they dinged up this edge, and then I could feel the other side where it slipped off. So we need to be careful, otherwise we're going to round this nut off. Now, I'm not that concerned about it because we can always just replace the nut, but we definitely want to be cognizant of that if we can, we don't want to ruin all this stuff. Alright, I have a 19mm wrench attached to this outer tie rod. It's wedged in over there. The reason I'm doing that and holding it still so that this joint right here, you know, if we just, you know, put a lot of pressure on this nut, it's going to put pressure on this joint. We don't want to damage this, so we're trying to salvage this thing and minimize the damage, and if anything, we only want to damage the nut. So that's why I'm holding it still. So now we can go at this nut with this not moving. Now, typically you would just put your wrench on there just like that, just like the other tick did. But if I put it in the same spot, we're just going to probably round off that spot again. So we got to get a different angle. If I go this way, I can't get the wrench all the way on there because of the way the nut is kind of damaged. So I'm going to see if I can do something else. Alright, we know that an open end wrench is probably going to slip off because that's what happened on the last one. I'm going to put this adjustable wrench on here. It's a little longer, gives you a little more leverage. This one's made by Baco, so we'll put this on here and see if we can't do anything. These things are great for grabbing onto stuff like this and not letting go. So let's see what we can do. Nope, that thing is on there tight. Nope, this ain't gonna move it. Alright, now I'm gonna use a regular pipe wrench. One like this, and I'm gonna hit the end. We'll tap the end and see if we can't jar it loose. Success. Alright, now with this loose, we just want to make sure this will turn inside of this. So we can just take this. Oh, look at that, like butter. Beautiful. I think we got a fix. They should be able to line this now. And if we look at the nut, I put a few teeth marks in there, but it's still flat. We can still get a wrench on there. This nut is going to live to see another day. I think we're going to be just fine. Now we'll just snug it up there. Now it's ready for the alignment tech. Now I'm on the driver's side. Seeing as I'm right here, I'll go ahead and try to loosen that one. Might have to do the same thing. Alright, I just went ahead and did the same technique I used on the other side over here. And I was able to knock this one loose also. Now, this one wasn't nearly as tight as the other one. So this one definitely wasn't a huge issue, but we still want to make sure that these will move independently, and they do. So we're good. This thing's ready to go. A pipe wrench like this is definitely a favored tool of mine, and this technique of hitting it with a hammer, I learned underground when I worked underground in a copper mine. We used to come across some really nasty, rusty, stubborn nuts and bolts, and I would use this technique a lot. Smack it on the end with a hammer, although I used a 36 ounce hammer, and then this might have started to loosen it up, but I finished this off with the 3-pound hammer. Underground, when I'd use this technique, I used this same rigid wrap wrench underground. I used the same exact one. We used to use 16-pound double jack versions of this, so they were a heck of a lot bigger. And I would still hit this 10-inch wrap wrench right there with a 16-pound hammer. And more times than not, those nuts and bolts would come loose. If they didn't come loose with that combo, then we'd probably go to oxygen acetylene torch and cut them off. But I definitely like using this when there's room to get stuff like that off. Well, in my opinion, this vehicle is ready to go back to Firestone to finish the alignment. Now, whether they actually finish the alignment or come up with another reason, I don't know. Let me know what you think they're going to do down in the comments below. And as always, if the video helped you out or you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Hey, you guys still here? Alright, how about a quick update for those of you who stuck around to the end. I took the vehicle back to Firestone, told them that I was able to get those jam nuts loose, and asked them to finish up the alignment, and they did it. No questions asked. Fixed the alignment perfectly, gave me the printout, said everything was in the green, all good to go. And I could tell they aligned it because when I drove it there, I definitely screwed up the alignment messing around with those tie rods, and it drove like this. And when I came back, perfect. So no complaints. They did a good job with the alignment once we got those jam nuts squared away, and everything was good to go on it. Now, if I wasn't able to break those nuts free the way I did in this video, I probably would have tried heat next. And if that didn't work, I may have tried an air hammer. Probably the last resort would have been trying to cut the nuts off. You know, if those tie rods are in good shape, I'd definitely go after that nut that's seized on there and try to get it free, whether I had to break it off, cut it off, whatever. As long as the rest of the parts were in good shape, I'd rather do that than, you know, throw $1,000 worth of parts at that thing. Now, if they were already destroyed and you know, plus the nut is seized, well, at that point, yeah, we'll take the parts off and start replacing everything. But in this case, the nuts were the only thing that were the issue. In my opinion, let's spend a half hour or an hour labor, and if you need to charge the customer extra for that because they're in really bad shape, then let's do that, I think, in my opinion, as long as those other parts are in good shape, before we start saying, hey, we need to throw $1,000 worth of parts at the problem. So in any event, hey, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching all the way to the end.